U.S. debt surpassing the value of global gold reserves every second. America's national debt climbs higher. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are added before the next breath. Billions before the next sunrise. The counter never stops. It only accelerates. Today, the number stands above $34 trillion, a figure so immense that even economists struggle to describe what it truly means. We use the word trillion casually, but few grasp its scale. A trillion seconds ago, mammoths still roam the earth. Now the United States owes 34 of them. Numbers this large begin to lose meaning. They don't feel real. But perhaps that's the problem. Because when money becomes abstract, it becomes infinite, and infinity always ends badly. To understand the magnitude of this number, imagine something tangible. Gold. From pharaohs to financiers, gold has symbolized permanence. It is scarce, unchanging, incorruptible. For thousands of years, wealth was measured in its weight. Yet, in our modern era, paper promises and digital entries have replaced metal and weight with confidence and credit. Here's the shocking truth. If you gathered every ounce of gold humanity has ever mined, melted it down, and shaped it into a single cube, it would measure roughly 22 meters on each side. That cube, glowing and dense, would hold the entire sum of the world's above-ground gold, about 200,000 metric tons. At today's market price, all of it together is worth around $15 trillion. In other words, the United States alone owes more than twice the value of every ounce of gold ever extracted from the earth. One nation's debt now outweighs humanity's entire physical treasure. That realization marks a turning point. It forces a question few dare to ask. If the world's greatest economy owes more than all its gold combined, then what is money actually built on? And what happens when belief, the only thing left holding it together, finally begins to crack? The weight of real gold. Gold has always been more than just a metal. It's the one substance that civilizations across time have universally agreed upon as wealth. From ancient temples to modern vaults, it has served as a promise that value could be stored, not imagined, not declared, but proven. It doesn't rust, it doesn't fade, and it cannot be printed. Its scarcity is not artificial. It's geological. To find it, humans have moved mountains, crossed oceans, and fought wars. Despite thousands of years of effort, the total supply of gold above ground is only about 200,000 metric tons. If you melted every coin bar and necklace into a single block, it would form a cube just 22 meters wide on each side, small enough to fit inside a sports arena. That cube represents every ounce of gold humanity has ever possessed. At today's prices, its value is around $15 trillion, the combined heritage of every civilization's obsession with permanence. Now compare that to the $34 trillion of U.S. national debt. In the time it would take to mine an ounce of gold, the U.S. government can create billions in new debt with a single authorization. What took centuries to dig from the earth can be doubled with the stroke of a key. That's the paradox of the modern financial world. Real value is slow, heavy, and finite. Imagined value is fast, weightless, and infinite. Gold moves by the ton. Debt moves at the speed of light. When gold could no longer keep up with the ambitions of nations, something had to give. The world chose convenience over constraint. It traded weight for trust and scarcity for promises, and from that choice came the most powerful and dangerous financial invention in history, a dollar no longer bound by gold. How America's debt became limitless. For most of human history, money had limits. It was bound by something real, a metal, a crop, a labor hour, something tangible that anchored faith to fact. But after the Second World War, the United States built a system so dominant that it no longer needed those chains. In 1944, delegates from 44 nations met at Bretton Woods. The war was ending, and the world needed order, a financial architecture strong enough to prevent another collapse. The United States, untouched by destruction and holding more than two-thirds of the planet's gold, offered a solution. Under the new system, the dollar became the world's reserve currency, backed by gold at a fixed price of $35 an ounce. Other nations pegged their currencies to the dollar, and in doing so, global trade revolved around American stability. The promise was simple: $1 was as good as gold, and for a while it worked. But prosperity bred ambition, and ambition demanded spending. Wars in Asia, programs at home, the space race. America's commitments began to exceed its means. By the late 1960s, countries like France and West Germany grew suspicious. They saw the U.S. printing more dollars than its gold reserves could support, and they started demanding gold in exchange. For every ounce of gold in Fort Knox, there were dozens of dollars abroad claiming to be redeemable. The system cracked under its own success. On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon announced that the United States would temporarily suspend the dollar's convertibility into gold. That temporary measure never ended. From that day on, the dollar was backed by nothing but confidence. Gold was no longer the foundation of money. Belief was. Debt, once a tool of necessity, became a lever of power. And with no physical constraint left to stop it, the line between money creation and borrowing began to blur. America had discovered a new kind of alchemy, one that could turn faith into currency and promises into power. The illusion of safety, why the world still buys the debt. By all logic, a country drowning in trillions of dollars of debt should be seen as unstable. But the United States isn't just any country. Its debt has become the bedrock of global finance. Around the world, nations hold U.S. Treasury bonds the way ancient kings once held gold. Banks, corporations, pension funds all depend on them as the safest investment imaginable. Every bond is a promise backed not by metal, but by America's reputation and the belief that it will always pay what it owes. This is the paradox at the heart of modern capitalism. The more America borrows, the more U.S. bonds exist. The more bonds exist, the more investors hold them. Debt doesn't undermine confidence, it creates it. When markets panic, money doesn't flee from U.S. debt, it rushes toward it. During crises, from the 2008 meltdown to the pandemic, global capital flooded back into Treasury bonds. The logic is simple. If the world ends, the dollar is the last thing left standing. The United States doesn't just issue the world's currency. It enforces the world's order. Its military, its alliances, its economic reach all feed into one truth. The dollar is power, and power sustains belief. So the world continues to buy America's debt, not because it is safe, but because everything else is less safe. This illusion of safety is self-reinforcing and self-deceptive. It works until it doesn't. Beneath the layers of faith lies a simple truth: debt compounds, and belief cannot compound forever. Section 5. When the math stops working, every system built on confidence eventually meets arithmetic. Faith can bend reality for a time, but not forever. For decades, the United States borrowed freely, confident that growth and its reserve currency status would outpace the cost. But the math has started to fight back. In 2024, the U.S. government spent more than $1 trillion just on interest payments. The debt has grown so large that even small changes in interest rates now echo through the economy like thunder. When borrowing was cheap, the system looked sustainable. But as rates rose, that illusion cracked. The government had to roll over old debt at higher costs, paying more each year just to stand still. Once gold limited how far a nation could stretch itself. Today there are no limits, only spreadsheets and screens. Governments begin borrowing just to pay the interest on what they already owe. That's when debt stops being a policy and becomes a trap. Japan reached this moment decades ago, surviving only because its debt was internal. But America's debt is global. It sits in the vaults of China, Japan, Europe, and every major financial institution. It underpins retirement funds, mortgages, and international trade. If it falters, everything trembles. The danger isn't default, it's devaluation. When the numbers no longer add up, nations quietly let inflation erode what they owe, paying debts with cheaper dollars. The system survives, but at the cost of trust. And trust is the real currency of the world. Money is not wealth. It's a claim on the future. And when too many claims are made on a future that cannot deliver, something breaks. It won't happen in a day. It will start silently, few investors hesitating, a few central banks diversifying. Then suddenly, belief will shift, and the math, long ignored, will finally be felt. For centuries, gold defined what money was. Its value could be seen, its weight could be felt. Today, money has no weight, only trust. The United States built a financial empire on that trust, a system so vast that even its debt became wealth. But no empire escapes the laws of value forever. When promises exceed what's real, history always ends the same way. Empires don't fall when they run out of money, they fall when they run out of belief. The U.S. debt now exceeds the value of all the gold ever mined. Gold isn't what's missing, restraint is. Money is no longer a mirror of value, but a reflection of belief. The story of debt is the story of every empire. It begins with ambition and ends with faith.